नमस्कार दोस्तों और जय हिंद। आप सभी को स्वागत है इन माय चैनल 1971 वॉर बुक सीरीज। तो दोस्तों आज हम एक स्पेशल पॉडकास्ट करने वाले हैं विद somebody who has worked with a special organization of the Indian Armed Forces. He is actually a military historian and he has recorded a lot of stuff regarding the 1971 war. Lekin that is also regarding an organization that not many people talk about or know, even in the Indian Armed Forces. This organization's contribution has been immense in the liberation of Chittagong and the Chittagong Hill Tracts area during the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971. Primarily composing of Tibetans, the Special Frontier Force, the special organization that I'm talking about, is an exceptionally secretive organization जिन्होंने 1960s से बहुत सारे clandestine operations किए हैं for India and her interests, but also 1971 में not only for India but also for Bangladesh, these brave Tibetan fighters had fought the Pakistani army in the Chittagong Hill Tracts area. Introducing to our podcast today, I will be talking with Colonel Satish Singh Lalotra, who was commissioned in the Regiment of Artillery of the Indian Armed Forces. Lekin he had also served with a 3 years deputation to the Special Frontier Force, composing still mostly with Tibetan fighters. Hence, to know more about the SFF and their contributions in the 1971 war and its present day organizational works, let's welcome Colonel Satish Singh Lalotra to our program today.
As sir we had discussed, we'll be talking about the Special Frontier Force, operations mostly on 71 war. So what was the foundation of it, sir? From the 1960s, I would like to know a bit about that, sir. And how did they actually come into being to work as a part of the Indian Armed Forces?
Okay, you see, first of all, I'd like to clarify, they are not part of Indian Armed Forces.
Okay.
They are not part of Indian Armed Forces. You can say in a broader term, they are a part of Indian security establishment as such, but not part of Indian Armed Forces.
Okay.
When we talk of Indian Armed Forces per se, it means Indian Army, Navy, Air Force. They don't form a part of this.
Okay.
SFF is an entirely different establishment, number one. Got it? Number two, you see, formation of SFF, in Indian context dates back not to 60s, in fact it goes back slightly a decade back.
Okay, the 50s.
A decade back. In fact, this thinking process started somewhere in mid-50s only.
Acha.
In mid-50s, and it took credence when General Thamaya was the 6th Army Chief, that is from 1959 till 1961. In fact, he mooted this idea to Nehru and V.K. Krishna Menon, the then Defence Minister, that we should try to form a guerrilla organization of mostly of Tibetan resistance fighters who have run away from Tibet and taken political asylum in India, form them into some cohesive fighting unit and employ them against the Chinese.
Okay.
That is against the PLA, that is People's Liberation Army of China and Tibet,
Right.
because they know the area and they are highlanders and they are more suited for mountain warfare.
Okay.
So this idea was basically given by General Thamaya to Nehru that time and even to the defense minister, but then he was summarily dismissed.
Acha.
Yeah, he was not given much attention to because they were not prone to his idea. Reason being, first of all, they thought that this idea is too far-fetched.
Acha.
Number one. Number two, they were to put it very bluntly, they were slightly scared also of China. So they didn't want to take open confrontation with China. So the thing went to cold storage.
Okay.
Got it? But this nucleus of SFF was already formed in early 50s. You see, the present day SFF, what you're seeing, the nucleus already formed in early 50s when China invaded Tibet in 1950, when they entered.
Okay.
Got it? Immediately after the Cultural Revolution 1949, when Mao Zedong, the Communist Party of China, they took over China after having defeated the KMT. That document of, Kuomintang. And we call that cultural revolution. This is the actual cultural revolution. That is the time they invaded Tibet. Like, and I was speaking to you, I think, about 3 4 days back, that they were having that typical that palm theory. Tibet has a palm with 5 fingers
Five
jutting in.
fingers, right, right.
Yeah, 5 fingers. One of the fingers is basically Ladakh. Second finger is your Nepal. Third is Bhutan. Then Sikkim, and then Arunachal, which they call as Arunachal, which they call as Southern Tibet. Got it. So they wanted basically to next all these areas. That was the bigger design they had in their mind.
Okay.
So when China invaded Tibet, there's a time, a lot of demonstration. You must have heard a lot of. You must have in fact read a lot of books also. A lot of demonstration took place, and a lot of killings also took place. And a very ham-handed manner, the PLA, that is the Chinese army, they started subjugating the Tibetan population. Ethnic cleansing went on, which is even going on today also. Now, there's a province in Tibet which is known as Kham.
Calm.
KHA, Kham region. Now, this Kham region is a very volatile region, and the people from this region, they are very you can say acclaimed fighters, Tibetan fighters.
Khampa warriors, right, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. They Khampa warriors, they have taken the name from Kham.
Okay.
So they originally belong to Kham region.
Acha, acha.
It basically forms part of Eastern Tibet.
Okay.
So these were the people who raised the flag of rebellion against PLA.
Okay.
And they formed the army which is known as Chushi Gongdruk army. Chushi Gongdruk.
Chushi Gongdrug, I haven't heard of this.
Chushi Gongdruk. I don't know whether you heard that name or not. Chushi Gongdruk army.
Acha, acha.
So this Chushi Gongdruk, they had their own rank structure. They had their own generals, and all these Khampa warriors, they came under one common umbrella of Chushi Gongdruk.
Okay.
Got it. But the only problem was that they didn't have any modern weapons.
Okay.
So now they wanted some agency which could provide them with modern weapons so that they could take on PLA. That is the time US or CIA came into picture. Now, if you look at it, you'll be very, very surprised that the same USA was helping China as late as 1945.
Right, right.
Am I right?
Against the
That,
Japanese. Yeah.
yeah, till the Japanese invade. They were basically wanted to contain the Japanese, what do you call, invasion. And yeah, and in fact, they started helping the KMT, that is Chiang Kai-shek. Now, suddenly after 1945, the thing which should strike your mind is that how come the same US or same CIA turned against China after 1949?
Communism.
Am I right? Yeah, communism, yeah. So, like I was speaking to you day before yesterday, it was basically to stop the spread of communism.
Right.
Now, these Kham warriors, that is your Khampa warriors, they wanted some excellent agency to provide them with arms, ammunition, training, all those things, which they never had. They had those traditional bows and arrows, all those things, but they had that fighting spirit in them.
Right, right.
So CIA then mooted the idea under Truman, ki, okay, we'll provide them with arms, ammunition, training, all those things in a very covert manner, and we'll start training them and let them take on PLA.
Okay.
Now they wanted some base, and this base was basically established in Mustang. Mustang is one of the districts of northern districts of Nepal. It is jutting inside. If you see the map of Nepal, it is jutting into Tibet. It's a very remote area full of mountains and all. And why CIA or USA they chose Mustang was that 90% of population of Mustang district of Nepal has Tibetan population.
Acha, acha.
Despite being part of Nepal, 90% are Tibetans, only 10% are Nepalis.
Okay.
So that was a driving thought behind US and China to make Mustang as a
Training base.
fighting as a resistance base for the Tibetans,
Okay.
Tibetan guerrillas. And from 1951-52 onwards, they started expanding this base. They started giving them arms, ammunition, and all those things in a very covert manner.
Acha, acha.
And they started having their training bases in that area. From there, these Tibetan guerrillas, they used to go carry out hit and run tactics, raids, fall back to Mustang, that sort of thing. They kept on doing that. Now, side by side, this CIA thought that maybe the effort which is there in Mustang may not be enough, because they wanted this resistance to be basically spread out all over Tibet.
Acha.
Mustang, if you see, it's somewhere in center of Tibet. They wanted the entire thing to be not concentrated into center of Tibet. They wanted that it should go even to the north, to west, and even to the east.
Acha, acha.
Got it?
Uh-huh.
So for that, they wanted more bases.
Right, right.
Understood? So from where these bases will come? So that is the time this CIA and US Air Force they came into picture,
US Air Force.
and
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. And then they started taking out this what do you call Tibetan guerrillas who had come to India also, and they had come to Nepal also
Acha.
from
Uh-huh.
Tibet, and they picked them up, and then they lifted them to US.
Okay.
US
Acha,
and
acha, acha.
and to one of the US bases which was in Japan, which was known as Okinawa.
Okinawa. Ha ha ha. We all
Okinawa. They
heard
took
of
them
the
to,
Battle of Okinawa. That
yeah,
place.
they took them they took them to Okinawa and to Saipan and all those places
Okay.
and trained them. And you see, these Tibetans are this SFM is what? It's basically guerrilla organization.
Mm-hmm.
They're meant to be basically infiltrated behind enemy lines, carry out sabotage,
Yeah.
weaken the enemy resistance,
Mm-hmm.
and assist the main invading force.
Right, right.
So they took all these guerrillas, took them to Okinawa,
Mm-hmm.
took them to US also, trained them in the latest arms, ammunition, technology, communication, everything.
Okay.
After having trained them,
Mm-hmm.
they started ferrying them back to Tibet.
Acha, acha.
So that is the time when few bases in present-day Bangladesh, that time East Pakistan, like Kurmitola and all,
Mm-hmm.
they came into picture.
Acha.
So what this CIA aircraft used to do was like basically B-29 aircraft bombers and B-27, B-29 Super Fortress. These bombers they used to take off from Okinawa,
Okay.
got it, and they used to land at Kurmitola.
Dhaka Kurmitola.
They used to land at Kurmitola, which was that time East Pakistan. They used to be refueled there.
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan Air Force used to refuel them,
Acha.
and all the Tibetan guerrillas all they used to congregate there, and from there they used to take off.
Acha, acha.
During night time, in the shadow of the mountains, fly over Darjeeling and Kalimpong, and then infiltrate into Tibet.
Tibet. Right.
They used to be airdropped over Tibet.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And at that time,
So
sir, India and East, India's airspace was being used. India also didn't say anything.
absolutely. So you see that time,
Mm-hmm.
the times were different. The geopolitical dynamics were entirely different. What is basically visible to you and me today? The things have changed now. I'm talking about 6 years back.
Right, right.
So that time, and secondly, the biggest thing why Pakistan was supporting US that time was because Pakistan was that time part of CENTO and CETO pact.
Acha, acha.
Got it? CETO, that is Central South Asian Treaty Organization and Central Treaty Organization. It was basically security pacts under which Pakistan, Turkey, and all those countries they were basically supporting US.
Right, right.
So as part of CETO and CENTO, so naturally US and
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Pakistan.
they came very close.
Mm-hmm.
And they agreed to provide some air bases to US Air Force and CIA aircraft to help facilitate these Tibetan guerrillas to be airdropped into Tibet for these clandestine operations. So that's the time this actual
Mm-hmm.
SFF nucleus formed.
Acha, acha.
So it's not that in 60s or in 62 or in the wake of 1962 this formed. It was already there about a decade back. Since that time, China invaded into Tibet in 1950, in 51, 52, like I told you. And after that, the thing started off. Then came, I'm just recounting those things. Then came your 1954, that Panchsheel agreement, Hindi Chini bye bye and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And initially we were thinking that China is going to be our friend, but then we saw that China was slowly and starkly, they had started nibbling at our land also. And then we knew that okay, the China doesn't have honest intention towards us,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? So then our dynamics also changed with China.
Right.
And then came your that infamous forward policy, which was enunciated by B.N. Malik,
Mm-hmm.
that IB chief. So that's what it is. And because in 1959, when Thimai became chief,
Mm-hmm.
he was chief from 1959 till 1961.
Mm-hmm.
So he realized that this is a very potent force which is lying unused. And secondly, the biggest thing was in 1959, Dalai Lama fled from
Tibet.
Tibet,
Huh.
Tibet, and along with him came about 80,000 people, 80,000 Tibetans.
Okay.
They infiltrated from, not exactly infiltrated, they flew from Tibet and entered India through Khinzemane. There's a place in Genzemane, is west of, sorry, east of Tawan, Genzemane. They came from Genzemane, and from there they were led to India. They were received by our High Commission, all those people, and then given political asylum. Now they are having their exile government in Dharamshala, near McLeodganj. So that is the time when these people they fled from Tibet. The idea came into Thamaya that why not have a potent force of these people only and formulate them into some good fighting force so as to be used against the Chinese army. But the idea was dismissed by Krishna Menon and Nehru that time. They thought, no, this is too far-fetched an idea. Let's not use these people for this operation because as it is, China was peeved against us for giving political asylum to
Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama. And this was one of the triggering factors. I'm thinking this is one of the triggering factors why China took over in 1962 because Chinese considered, rather Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai, they thought that Nehru is basically a reactionary man. He is imperial man. He is imperialistic. He's got imperialistic idea. He is still a Britisher. Anyway, that's a different thing. We'll be digressing to the subject. So this is how SSM came into being. Now after that, like when it was dismissed, when China then attacked India in 62, then we realized the importance of these Tibetans.
Because we were, I mean, I would say poorly equipped and we are not prepared at
So
all.
yeah, I agree with you. That is everybody is aware of that. That is uh, gospel truth with our this thing
Leadership.
military books, yeah, leadership, and everything is written in black and white. So that's the reason we generally don't try to discuss much about 1962. But anyway, since we are restricting ourselves only to SFF, so I'm not going into this 62
Okay.
all the things. So you can say this was the genesis for the formation of
SFF.
SFF, general this thing idea, giving a general idea. And after that, like the raising day of SFF is basically it's a very historical day, which coincides with the Nehru's birthday. It's 14th of November, 1962.
Acha.
It was raised formally. It was raised on 14th November 1962, and it came into being. And then, with the active help of young Subhan, Major Mrs. Subhan,
Who
he
named it
commanded
established 22, I guess. Established.
because he used to command 22 mountain regiment or artillery. I am also from artillery. He commanded 22 mountain artillery in Second World War. So he thought that let me give this name of my own parent unit as a new formation which I am
Acha.
trying to formulate.
Acha.
So that's how the moniker of Establishment 22 came into being.
So, sir,
So this is what
yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
So after 62, and I would say, yeah, when these
But let me tell you, but I'll just interject. You see, this entire in 62, SFF was not actually used because by the time they were formulated on 14 November 1962, war had more or less ended.
okay.
62 off ended on 21st of November 62. So this SFF came into being just a week prior to it. So war had more or less ended that time. But then they were subsequently used in various operations.
Now, could you talk a bit about the operations of the SFF after 62 till 70s? I mean, the what I can say 69, 70. What did they do actually? What were some of the operations? If you could talk about them, sir.
You see, I'll tell you, see, most of these operations, they are not documented. They are not written in any military history books. Since it's a very hush-hush organization.
Right.
It is a very hush organization. And like I told you, it doesn't form part of Indian Armed Forces. It doesn't part of Indian Army or this thing.
Okay.
It basically comes directly under Cabinet Secretariat. State becomes the cabinet, and it is got direct control of the Prime Minister
Prime Minister.
and the Cabinet Secretary.
Acha.
Got it. And it's basically like one of the sister organizations of RAW, Research Analysis Wing, and the ARC. ARC is what? Aviation Research Center, which is an air arm of RAW.
Right.
ARC is an air.
Established by Cow himself.
Yeah, absolutely. RN Cow. Yeah.
Right.
So ARC is basically air arm of RAW, and you can say this is also a military wing of military arm of RAW, SFF. So but during wartime, they do come under operation control of army, but otherwise they got their own independent charter of duties, everything independent. They got their own laws.
Own
They don't
laws.
come under, they don't come under army act. There is an act which is known as force orders.
Acha.
Force orders
Okay.
or force act. It is more or less like Indian army orders only,
Mm-hmm.
but nomenclature is entirely different. And there are certain modifications in the various laws also in that.
Acha, acha, acha.
And all these SFF units, they also got two sets of troops and officers who are basically functioning with them.
Acha, acha.
One is like during my time, I don't know what is prevalent now, but during my time, it used to be like IA staff and Pinja staff. IA is Indian Army staff.
Okay.
And Pinja is a moniker for a Tibetan soldier.
Okay.
तो पिंजा स्टाफ कौन थे ही इज फ्रॉम पिंजा एक पिंजा स्टाफ है एंड दिस इज आईए स्टाफ एंड सिमिलरली ऑफिसर्स आल्सो इंडियन आर्मी ऑफिसर्स एंड
Force officers.
फोर्स ऑफिसर मींस
Tibetan.
SFF officers.
Acha, acha.
SFF officers they used to be commissioned at SFF Academy which is there in Chakrata, that is Tudu Academy. They used to be trained there and they used to be commissioned by commandant there.
Acha, acha.
And the rank structure, the SFF rank structure of the officers is something like police, like assistant commandant, deputy commandant, that's all. Deputy commandant,
I also
assistant
saw
commandant.
political leader, I guess.
Yeah, that is different. That is when you're coming to other ranks and all. That is of the ranks which are below officer's rank.
Okay.
But for the officer's rank, the SFF ranks
Mm-hmm.
who commissioned from 22 regiment is like assistant commandant
Mm-hmm.
and deputy commandant. Assistant commandant sports 3 stars and deputy commandant he has that major wala that what do you call rank
Acha, acha.
like we have
In the Indian Army, right?
major rank insignia of major
Acha, acha.
and the rank structure below the officers is different. It doesn't resemble any Indian Army ranks. It's entirely different.
Okay. So all
So,
hush, hush, and
like
different.
like yes, like in our case in Indian Army we have the highest rank in what do you call below officers is Subedar Major SM.
Right, right.
Subedar. They have political leader.
Acha.
It's not a political leader,
Mm-hmm.
and their rank sections are entirely different. Then we have after Subedar Major we have Subedar.
Mm-hmm.
They have company leader.
Company leader. Acha, acha.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay.
Then after that, we in Indian Army we have Naib Subedar.
Mm-hmm.
They have deputy leader.
Deputy leader.
Then we have Havaldar.
Mm-hmm.
Is known as assistant leader.
Assistant leader. Acha.
And then in Indian Army we have normal like Sipais and all. They are known as trainees. That's the reason you asked me what is TRN. That is known as trainees.
Trainees.
So there's the rank cycle. Trainees, assistant leader, deputy leader, company leader. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
The brigadier rank is equal to Dapon. DAPON. Dapon.
Dapon.
Dapon. The brigadier rank. So entirely different rank structure. Different cause only. So that's it. And they're basically Highlanders with huge lungs and you can say very, very accomplished mountaineers. Mountaineers par excellence.
Acha.
Very good mountaineers. Very good mountaineers. Unbeatable.
And I think I also read in General Uban's book that they also used to do para course as well.
Yeah, absolutely. See, this force is what? This force is basically an is a guerrilla force.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what guerrilla? Guerrilla means it's an irregular force.
Irregular. Right, right.
Irregular, not in any form or shape. Irregular means their their thought process
Mm-hmm.
of operations is irregular. It's not formalized, not regular. It means they will not follow any set pattern of their operations.
Okay.
Got it? So that's the reason
Mm-hmm.
it's known as guerrilla force. Their primary aim is basically to be airdrop behind enemy lines,
Okay.
sabotage them, destroy their what do you call communication links, bridges, and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Weaken them so as to help facilitate the main invading force, and then exfiltrate from there, come out from there.
Okay.
And all the officers, like when I was posted there,
Mm-hmm.
my designation used to be known as Guerrilla Company Commander. I was a company commander,
Mm-hmm.
but Guerrilla Company Commander because I was commanding guerrillas.
Right, right, right.
Have you understood?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a guerrilla force. Guerrilla force. So naturally, everything basically gets derived from this terminology, guerrilla.
Gorilla.
The nature of operation, the nature of equipment,
Mm-hmm.
the way of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. And that is the reason that they've employed in CSC, that is Chittagong Hill Tracts, because like they were on their own,
Mm-hmm.
unlike Indian Army and all, they were on their own. On their own means like with very basic wherewithal, they were surviving there and they were fighting there. They're very hardy troops.
Could you talk a bit about them? I mean, the Tibetans fighters, if you like, how they are. As per the nature, so that they were chosen in 71. Like a brief description of them, sir, as a people. Before we go into 71 ops. So yeah, I would like to know a bit about them, sir.
But like your earlier question, in fact, you asked me that before 71, in 60s, how they were employed.
Right, right,
You had asked this question.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, you see, from 16, since the time the formation in 62 till 71, when they were actually ushered into this Chittagong Hill Tracts,
Mm-hmm.
they carried out many clandestine operations which are not basically recordable anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the biggest operations which are undertaken by them and which got worldwide attention,
Acha.
and due to which India and China were again at loggerheads,
Okay.
literally loggerheads, was the operation which is known by the name of Operation Blue Mountain.
Blue Mountain. Okay.
Yeah, Operation Blue Mountain. Got it. There's a book written by Kenneth Conboy and James Morrison in CIA's Secret War in High Himalayas.
Okay.
The CIA's Secret War in Himalayas and Perilous Climbs, something of that nature. It's written by Kenneth Conboy and James Morrison. Uh, Kenneth Conboy and I think Major M.S. Kohli also. Major M.S. Kohli. I think these are three writers.
Okay.
So this was basically a very clandestine operation which somehow came out of the, what do you call, the saying, secrecy
Mm-hmm.
due to our mistake only.
Acha.
Okay, yes, absolutely. Due to our mistake only that the thing came out of the thing, and
So I have a
we had
question, sir.
to.
This was done by CIA or by us?
It is a giant operation. It is a giant operation.
Acha, acha, acha. But it came out because of India's mistake.
And not exactly India's mistake, I'll tell you later on what exactly was saying, but because since you had asked me about that, what exactly CIA, what do you call it, SFO did in 60s till 71. You see, this operation was launched during height of Cold War.
Acha.
You got it? Now, in 1964, China had conducted its first atomic explosion. Understood? In 1964, that is, I think, somewhere in May 1964, there is a nuclear testing facility of China which is known as LOPNOR.
Lobnor.
I don't know whether LOPNOR, LOPNOR.
Okay.
Lobnor. This is a nuclear testing facility which is there in Xinjiang province, and they had conducted their first nuclear test in 1964, and they became a nuclear power. The moment this thing happened, that was during basically height of Cold War. The moment this thing happened, all the world powers they were shaken up, including India, because as it is, India was number one enemy of China, and China was number one enemy of India, vice versa. So we also got worried. And more than us, it was USA which was got worried. Now the only problem is, that time, the military satellites and the military cameras which were fixed about this satellites, they were not all that powerful.
Okay.
Correct. They couldn't take the pictures of this nuclear testing facility of Lopnor from space because US wanted basically to snoop around what exactly China is doing in that. What is the level of advancement or what is the level of readiness of Chinese nuclear weapon program, which they didn't have. Yes, sir. So they thought, okay, let's place some listening device on a good geographical feature which should have a direct line of sight towards North. And they should be able to listen as to what actually is happening.
Okay.
So they started homing on some huge bloody mountain in Himalayas. They thought, let's place some listening device at Kanchenjunga. That sort of thing, it kept on going. But then they finally homed on to Nanda Devi.
Okay.
Nanda Devi, which is there in Garhwal. Now, if you see, look at map, Nanda Devi has got a direct line of sight from Nanda Devi to Lucknow. So they thought, okay, let's put one nuclear power camera with good listening device, correct, charged with nuclear powered batteries having a high, I think, half-life of 200 years or something like that.
Acha.
A top Nanda Devi.
Acha, acha.
And this camera should be having direct link with the US military satellites in space so that these messages could be relayed directly to CIA headquarters in Langley, Fort Langley.
My goodness.
But,
Okay.
but then who will take this camera?
Huh?
This is where the role of SFF came into play. Have you understood? Then SFF mountaineers, SFF people, because they're very good mountaineers. SFF mountaineers, along with Major M.S. Kohli, he was famous Indian Everester. He, along with certain people from CIA, mountaineers, I don't exactly remember their names now, offhand, they formed a group and they took this nuclear device atop Nanda Devi. And it was there, I think, for about a year or so, but then some avalanche came.
Acha, acha.
Next year, they again went to retrieve that. Information was being passed over good about for 1 year from this listening device to the military satellites of US, which were there in space, and it was being further relayed down to the Fort Langley and CIA headquarters in US. Now, next year when these people they went to retrieve that listening device, I think there was some problem when they went there atop Nanda Devi to their hall, they found that the listening device is not there; it had fallen down. And after I think 2-3 years, a news came that this nuclear device had come down in River Ganga.
River Ganga में बहने में था गया.
And this news was basically printed in National Herald newspaper, which was owned by Jawaharlal Nehru that time. And then after that, all hell broke loose. And then I think Prime Minister had to give a clarification in the Parliament that yes, we did partner with CIA for a clandestine operation and all those things. I mean, this sort of things was being done by SFF in 60s.
60s. My goodness.
And this is one major operation which came into limelight because the thing got out of the veil of secrecy which was provided to them. Otherwise, had the veil of secrecy not been pierced,
Right.
compromised for years, everything would have been under wraps.
Right.
Am I right? So these sort of operations they were carrying out till 70, 71.
Okay.
And after that, then 71, they were subject to the 71 operations. Of course, not due to their own will. If they wanted, they never wanted to be basically part of 71 operations.
Acha, acha.
They never wanted to be part because they thought this is not about war. Why should we participate?
This wasn't, yeah.
Tibetan, this is not about war. They were these people. They were vehemently against participating in this war. It was only Indira Gandhi which went with this thing, request to Dalai Lama. That look, and you see, I should not use this word. She emotionally blackmailed Dalai Lama.
Acha, acha.
Indira Gandhi. She told, look, Niyazi is committing so much of atrocities in Bengalis in East Pakistan. Something of the same nature what China is doing against you in Tibet. So don't you think that you should try to help India to approve this operation which has been unleashed by Niyazi? So there was a lot of this thing, vehement opposition, and then many of the officers of SFF told you, look, in case formal orders come from CTA, that is Central Deputation Administration, which is there in McLeodganj, or from the government of India, only then they will form part of this operation, otherwise they will not. They told this is not our war. And became very difficult for General Uban to convince these troops because ultimately who is going to fight? The troops are going to fight.
Right,
It's not that the Pakistan is going to fight. General Uban has to make these people convinced.
Right, right.
So that's how they became really got subject to this. Because it was due to Indira Gandhi who had requested that. That's why I'm telling that they have been this SFA people or Tibetans, they have been given a very raw treatment. When we wanted to use them, otherwise they have been pushed into oblivion.
Unfortunately, yeah.
That's all.
So, could you talk a bit about, sir, main part of our 71 Operation Eagle, where the SFF were deployed against the Pakistani commandos, I would say special services group in Chittagong Hill
Uh,
Tracts.
yeah, absolutely. You see, this force of SFF, they were basically, like I told you, when they gave their assent to the Dalai Lama and to Central Tibetan administration, that okay, they will form part of this operation.
Mm-hmm.
By the time, a 3,000 strong, I think 3 to 4,000 strong force of SFF, they were collected.
Acha, acha.
And they were basically formed under three different columns:
Mm-hmm.
northern column, central column, and southern column.
Okay.
With each column under one column commander being commanded by lieutenant colonel or colonel and various officers as company commanders. And
Okay.
each column was accompanied by a dapon.
Okay.
It means each column, having about 1,000 Tibetan soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
was commanded by a lieutenant colonel or a oblique colonel of Indian Army and various company commanders, plus one Tibetan brigadier was also there with each column.
Acha. Acha.
Okay. Yes. And in fact, these people they had started congregating at a place known as Dimagiri.
Demagiri. Acha, acha, acha.
Dimagiri in Mizoram,
Mm-hmm.
in Longli district at Dimagiri.
Mm-hmm.
So, because before infiltrating, before going for such an operation, we have to do area familiarization. So Dimagiri and Longli and CST, they got the same topography. They were basically practicing their what do you call training activities, everything next to Dimagiri only. And Dimagiri, in fact, became a de facto force headquarters of SFF during op Eagle.
Another
It also
question.
it also had a field hospital at Dimagiri.
Acha, acha. Another question I have, sir. This place, I mean, Demagiri ke south and this place in Mizoram, I think it was also infested with these Lion Brigade Mizo rebels, I guess.
Absolutely, you're right. Absolutely correct.
Uh-huh.
In fact, these Mizo rebels and Pakis, the Pakistan army, they were hand in glove,
Mm-hmm.
hand in glove. And it's a very age-old problem. You know, you're aware of this
Mm-hmm.
Mizo rebels. So they were already operating there. So now SFF had a twin task of
Right.
combating the Mizo rebels
Uh-huh.
and combating the Pakis also.
Acha, acha.
So they took on both. They took on both. Of course, in conjunction with BLF.
Okay, Bangladesh Liberation Force.
Yes, which was commanded by Fazl Haq Moni, the cousin of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman.
Right, right, right.
And it was not basically part of Mukti Bahini, it was part of Mujib Bahini.
Mujib Bahini.
Mujib. Am I right or not?
Mm-hmm.
It was basically part of Mujib Bahini, but
Mujib
later on
Bahini.
it was amalgamated with Mukti Bahini.
Because, sir, I
So,
think I saw a picture of General Uban with Shirajul Haq Alam and Sheikh Fazlul Haq Muni, but it wasn't taken in
yes,
Chakrat, I guess.
must be.
Mhm.
So yeah, you're right. These are three, four people along with Fazlul Haq
Mhm.
and Jalwan,
Mhm.
who formed the nucleus of BLF. And training was also given to BLF by us only, by SFF only.
SFF. Acha, acha, acha.
Yeah, by SFF. By SFF. So it was a basically joint operation undertaken by SFF and
Mhm.
BLF.
Acha, acha.
And the actual infiltration into CHT, that is Chittagong Hill Tracts, it took place on 11th of October 71, about 1.5 months prior to the actual 97 operations.
Mhm.
They, in fact, congregated at Agartala Glass Factory.
Acha, acha, acha.
They congregated at Agartala Glass Factory, where the BSF, where the SFF and BLF, they both married. That is, the both elements, they came together,
Mhm.
did some joint training there. And from there, under the overall command of BLF, that is Fazlul Haq Moni, they were led into
CST.
CST,
Acha.
CST, where separate targets were already assigned to them.
Acha, acha. Like,
So that's what it is.
okay.
Like
And
northern column, central column, southern column.
mhm.
And the method of operation is also very simple. The chain of command is also very simple.
Acha.
You should understand this. All the Tibetan guerrillas who were basically forming part of these columns at that time, many of these guerrillas they never understood Hindi,
Mhm.
nor neither they understood English. Now,
Mhm.
how do we communicate? So the means of communication was Hindi, which was spoken by General Uban to his company commanders, to
Mhm.
his CEOs, and to the Dapons.
Acha.
They understood Hindi very well.
Mhm.
And then these orders were then further translated in Tibetan language
Mhm.
to the troops. Hey, look, my aim is so and so.
Mhm.
So that's how the thing used to work. After having assigned a target, look, we are going to do so and so, so and so, so and so. Then they used to strategize. That is the SFF people and BLF people. They used to strategize among themselves how to go about the operation. And then, if any amendment is supposed to be done, they used to go right up the chain again, chain of command again. That is from Gabon and these company commanders and the COs. It used to go to
General Uba,
uh,
yes, and they
to
will
the
put
Nuba.
ups. Okay.
Yeah, and then in case of any amendment or any changes, then it used to come down again. So that's the other thing.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, the basic idea of operation revolved around hit and attackers because these people they are guerrillas. They're guerrillas. Yeah. Now the idea was basically to go and destroy all these Pakistani posts which were inside Chittagong. BLF, that is Bangladesh Liberation Force, they had a lot of information as compared to SFF because SFF they had been brought from Chakrata or from Dumduma. In fact, all these people they were airlifted from Chakrata, they were flown to Dumduma.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, to Dumdum Airport.
Dumdum
To
Airport.
Dumdum. To Dumdum. From Chakrata they were brought to Dumdum, and from Dumdum then they were brought to Dimagiri in I think 3 to 4 days time frame. And from there, then they were infiltrated inside.
And BLF people were locals, of course, so they'll know the
They
terrain
were
better.
locals. So they were locals and they knew the entire topography, they knew the language. So they were basically spearheading, and the entire operation revolved around hit and run tactics based on another, you can say, concept which is known as hammer and anvil. Hammer and anvil is what? Like, say, for example, an enemy post is there. So, when you attack that enemy post, who is going to first of all hold that post so that the people don't escape from there? And the attacking post will be different. So, the holding job, the holding task, or the holding operation was done by BLF.
Acha.
Okay, because they were locals. So, they used to surround this post, say Pakistani post, and the actual hit was done by SFF because they were very swift. They were very swift. They used to go, hit them, then escape from there. And this holding force also used to escape. And the aim was, after hitting them, escape back to India.
Acha. Directly cross the
Escape.
border.
It's not that after hitting them, stay there. Come back to India. Now, how do you come back to India? You see, from Demagiri, the river Karna fully flows. Karna fully. So they used to cross either by canoes, boats, rafts, that sort of thing.
Okay.
That was the thing. Hit them and then escape through those riverine approaches back to India. Regroup again and then go again, infiltrate again, identify a new target, destroy it, harass them, come back again. So that was the thing.
Now I had another question, sir. Like as far as I know, in those areas, Indian Army were also doing the same thing. Regular Indian Army.
Well, in India, but they were the same, but they were not in any case having any commonality with them, with SFF. They were having their own independent operations.
Acha, acha.
This was initially chopped out between General Manekshaw and General Uban.
Uban, right.
Then it will be an independent operation.
Now, sir, coming down to main part of the war, the advance onto Chittagong. How did the SFF go about with it, sir? And
You see, I'll tell you. Yeah.
and
This-
another question,
yeah.
sir, like
Okay, you tell me.
the air support that they had, the only one lone Mi-4 helicopter. If you could talk about that as well, sir.
So first of all, I'll tell you, they went with the bare minimum logistical support. They were guerrillas and having air. You can say the air support was practically nil.
Nil.
The only lone helicopter which you're saying, which was being flown by that squad leader Jansi, the Gir Chakra, was from ARC,
ARC.
the ARC Aviation Research Center.
Okay.
But later on in one of the operations, Indian Air Force did assist them in routing certain of the enemy targets. This was the only case of jointness between Indian Air Force and SFF. And one of the targets, I'll just tell you, you see, there were basically 3 columns: North column, Central column, and Southern column.
Okay.
I'll just tell you, the Northern column was under Colonel Prashant Kumar Purkaste.
Okay.
Got it? He was from Garhwal Rifles and we are Sibir Chakra. He was the column commander of the northern column.
Okay.
Then, then he had another thing, what do you call, company commander, Major Rajkumar Malhotra from 4 Para,
Mm-hmm.
PRC, Vilchakar, that sort of thing. And then the task was basically to capture few targets, few villages known as Shubalong,
Shubalong.
Shubalong Khal and Kashlong Khal.
Shubalong Khal and Kashlong Khal. Okay.
Got
As I said.
it. So as the aim was that the Pak army should not escape back to Rangamati.
That leads to Burma, I think.
No, no, no. That task was a different task.
Acha, acha.
There, you see, now this infiltrating force had 3 columns.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 columns had different aims.
Mm.
The role of northern column was this,
Okay, then Rangamati. Okay, okay.
Rangamati.
Got it, got it.
If you see the map of Chittagong Hill, Rangamati is somewhere north.
Yeah, yeah, it is not to the north, right, right, right.
But
Between Tripura
to
and
stop,
Mizoram area, I think.
yeah, to stop the people, to stop this Pak army
Mm-hmm.
escaping to Rangamati.
Acha.
Understand?
Okay.
And then I think by November 9, in fact, these people just started their operations somewhere in October only. By middle of end of October, they had started full-fledged operations, and by November 1971, they had captured these 2 places.
Acha, acha.
They had captured these places, and they had practically cut off Rangamati.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They had practically cut off Rangamati. You see, they were going purely as guerrillas. Before the actual invading force, that before the actual Indian army comes into play, they would have already saturated the area with their operations. Sabotage, those sort of things. So they had already captured these 2 places, thereby cutting the escape route of Pakistan towards Rangamati. And if you see Rangamati, Rangamati is somewhere in the north of CST.
अब मेरा एक और सवाल था सर लाइक
I'll tell you one more. Secondly, the biggest thing which I forgot, in fact, you'll be surprised. When they infiltrated into CST along with BLF from Dimagir, you know what they did as a disguise?
अच्छा
They wore Indian Army uniforms of 12 Gorkhas.
अच्छा अच्छा गोरखा
Okay.
ओके
12 Gorkhas.
अच्छा
So as to pretend as if they are Gorkha soldiers.
ओके
As a disguise. As a disguise.
अच्छा अच्छा
So that's what it is. It is a big operation. It cannot be basically confined to one podcast of say about half an hour to 45 minutes. I'm just trying to touch major points. So this was the role of central column. Then you had southern column. The southern column had the targets like Dhanubag, Degalchuri, Boriatoli, that sort of Boriatoli. They had these targets. And all these targets were basically major targets. The southern column was headed by one Lieutenant Colonel B.K. Narayan from artillery. He had Major Savinder Singh. In fact, the first attack in CST was undertaken by southern column only.
अच्छा
It was undertaken by southern column. And it was their task to prevent these people fleeing to this enemy to Burma.
बर्मा अच्छा
From the Arakan.
क्योंकि बर्मा के साथ आई थिंक पाकिस्तान का रिलेशन वाज गुड एट दैट टाइम
And similarly, then they had what do you call central column also. Central column had one column commander known as Lieutenant Colonel K.L. Vasudeva. He was again from RT, and Major Harish Chandra Sharma, that sort of thing. They had various officers. They had 6 what do you call medical officers. The medical officers with them. The medical evacuation plan was also very rudimentary.
अच्छा
You see, in these sort of operations, you generally have field hospitals, you have advanced dressing stations, that sort of thing.
3000 people of course yeah होना चाहिए
3,000 people of SFF and equal number of BLF. BLF was also something of, it was a combined force of about 5 to 6,000 which was operating.
Right. Now I had another question, sir. 2 questions actually. CHT district, as far as I have seen, road connection even today is not very well. First. Second is, sir, वहाँ पे जो चकमा राजा था, King Tridev Roy, he was a supporter of Pakistan. So these 2 factors must have made it more difficult.
Must have made. I was posted in that sector.
अच्छा, अच्छा,
I had served in that sector. So I was adjutant of that sector. And then later on, company commander of one of the companies of Delta sector. In fact, Delta sector is the biggest sector of SFF. And the broad organization of this SFF is that they're basically like now I believe all sectors they've been converted into Vikas battalions. Earlier, otherwise, it used to be uh, basically divided into two broad this thing. What do you call branches? One was sectors and another was Vikas battalions.
Okay.
Sectors were nothing but launching pads for these guerrillas into Tibet.
Mm-hmm.
And they were also like battalions only, but they're known as sectors. Like starting from Leh Ladakh,
Mm-hmm.
Alpha Bravo, like Alpha sector Leh, then Bravo sector in Himachal, Charlie sector in Uttarakhand,
Mm-hmm.
then Delta sector in Arunachal, Eco sector in Sikkim,
अच्छा अच्छा
that sort of thing.
सिक्किम में भी है of course. अच्छा अच्छा.
Sikkim is touching, Chumbi Valley is touching that.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. Okay. Now, I mean, I was coming back to one thing, sir. This medical evacuation, it must have been very difficult because the road connection is not well.
Very, very difficult. It was very rudimentary, very difficult, very difficult. But it goes to the toughness of this force that the people, despite being injured, they survived. Otherwise, it was a very, very rudimentary medical evacuation plan. You're right.
Right. Now, sir, coming part to the end of the war, the Chittagong, I mean, sector liberation. So, what was the SFF's role here, sir? Like, did they take part in the last, I mean, advance into Chittagong? Because as
No,
far
no,
as
no, no. They didn't. I mean, this is where I feel bad. They didn't. They were stopped. They were stopped. In fact, they wanted to go. They wanted to go and occupy Chittagong.
अच्छा अच्छा.
They were told not to go. Number one, they didn't have any artillery support with
Right,
them.
right, right.
And number one. Number two, to be very frank, Indian Army didn't want the cadet should go to SFF. Simple and straight.
Okay.
You will be surprised there. You tell me one thing. There, 56 people were killed in this operation of SFF, and more than 190 were injured.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were given, nothing. Only 580 people they were given cash prizes.
Cash prizes, that's it.
Are these people children of lesser God?
They are. I mean,
Wo chodo. That was 1971. Even as late as 2020. When the tables were turned on 28th, 29th August 2020 in that Galwan clash, when Pai Vikas Padi went and occupied what do you call position behind Chinese army, again nothing. Like I told you 3-4 days back when I was speaking to you, that recognition should be given to individuals. Otherwise, why they should come and fight for us?
right? Why they should?
Very simple. I mean, it's not that only when you are in dire straits that you use them, and after that you forget them. It's not that. Naturally, people will lose the respect for you, and that's what is happening with us. You'll be surprised now. Hardly any fresh Tibetan recruitment is taking place
Acha.
because they are turning towards Europe. They're telling why should you go to India? Number one. Number two, India is not helping also Tibetans to exfiltrate from Tibet.
Okay.
So they are going. They are taking some different route. They are coming either from Nepal or say via Bhutan or Burma, and from there they are going to US. That's the reason. Imagine, you'll be surprised. I mean, this is an ironic situation. Now you're seeing the latest Bangladesh problem which is there.
Yeah.
Tibetans in India are the only community which is the oldest refugee community in India. Am I right? And they have still got the status known as TRC, Tibetan refugees. What about Bangladeshis? They have made them read ration cards.
Yeah.
I mean, what about Rohingyas?
They are also getting the same, I would say. Yeah. आधार कार्ड
They are,
थोड़ा है सर उन लोगों का. Yeah.
they are Indians. But these poor people, they are still Tibetans. And they are still refugees. Why? Because India is not, first of all, India was not a part of this. First of all, we are not signatory to that UN this thing, policy on refugees of 1949 or 50, something like that. We were signatory to that. But then that's all the part thing. Question is, when you are given political asylum to this thing, the Dalai Lama way back in 1959, and when the Tibetans have done so much for you, why can't you spare your citizenship for these people?
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, I'll just tell you, see just a minute, I'll take a break. The latest CAA, that is Citizen Amendment Act, which was voted in 2019 by the Vajpayee government, by Modi government, it talks of which races? It talks of Buddhists, it talks of Jains,
Jains.
Muslims, Christians, Sikhs. Am I right? It doesn't talk of Muslims. Am I right? What about Buddhists?
Yeah, Tibetans are mostly following that faith.
Why not Buddhists? Why not Buddhists? Are the Buddhists? The Buddhists are the most persecuted lot in the world. Why has CAA, Citizen Amendment Act, or this act which has been voted by Modi, excluded this community? I mean, anyway, we'll digress from the subject otherwise. But I mean, this is about this. This is about it.
They should have gotten got the recognition they
Yeah,
deserve.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Tell me anything else you want to know.
A brief description of the operations or anything you want to share about the SFF after 71, sir, till today.
You see, I will share my
Remarkable,
own.
sir. Anything remarkable.
Pardon?
Anything remarkable that you want to bring out about them?
Yeah, you see, I'll tell their attributes. So people, first of all, I told you that these are not troops which form part of Indian Army.
Right, right.
They're basically forming part of Cabinet Secretariat, number one. Number two, they're very hardy people. And number three, they're very close-knit community. You have to gain you have to gain their confidence to infiltrate into their inner circle. Otherwise, they will not accept you as one among them.
Okay.
This I have seen. This I have seen. And I have seen them in Siachen. I've seen them in Glacier. Well, 30 years back in 1994, 95 when I was serving with them. I fought an operation with them in 94, 95. And I've seen them. They used to beat any other Indian Army unit hands down. They're very hardy people, tough people. But you cannot mess with them. You cannot mess with them. And to a certain extent, I'll say they are slightly ungovernable also.
Ungovernable, acha.
Yes, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful handling them. You have to be careful. But then, if you're right, and they also see that the cause for which you're taking them to task is correct, they listen. But no high-handed or no ham-handed approach with them. It will boomerang. It will boomerang. And it will boomerang very viciously. I have seen, I'm witness to it.
The toughest people that you can get to fight. I mean, they come from those areas. I would say.
Yeah, very tough people. And secondly, these people, they're very flamboyant by nature. They're very flamboyant. They're very flamboyant by nature. They're not bothered about money.
Acha.
They're not bothered about money. They're spendthrift. Even in Glacier also, you see their, what do you call, ladies and women and girls and all. They're very fashionable people.
Acha, acha.
They're very fashionable people. So, that sort of thing is there. And now most of the people, they are now converted to business class. And now only a trickle of Tibetans, they come into SFF. More of the Gurkhas, they're coming. Or maybe only those Tibetans are coming to SFF, which are now Indianized.
Indianized. Acha.
Yeah. But you can say, if you want to say that the Tibetans who have just come from Tibet, so it's like a trickle. During my time when I was there in 94, 1993, I was there in SFF from 93 till 1997, that time people used to come. I can recount an incident to you. It's a very live example I'm giving you, which hardly anybody must be having. You see, when I was posted in this Delta sector is in Dumduma. So I was a company commander there, and whenever a new trainee or a new Jawan gets posted, as a company, I was a company commander, so naturally you get into that, you get into that match from where you have come, what's your qualification, what are your parents doing, and all those things. So the company leader of my company, he came with a new trainee, and I interviewed him like I'm speaking to you. So when I spoke to him, I kept on speaking for I think about 2-3 minutes. This guy didn't answer only.
Achha.
So I thought maybe, and smart guy, tall chap, good looking and all those things. So I asked him, अपना हिंदी आता है? So then company leader देखने लगा, he didn't speak anything. Then I spoke in English. ठीक है? Again the guy was keeping quiet. So मैंने कहा, then what's the problem? But he is not speaking only. Then company leader told him, sir, he understands only 2 languages. One is Tibetan, or the second one is Chinese. Because why? Because about 3 months back only he's come from Tibet.
Acha.
He's come from Tibet 3 months back only when the Chinese army was after him. He infiltrated into India. Otherwise, he would have been killed in Tibet. And he then came, got enrolled there in SFF Academy, got trained, and he's been posted to the later sector.
Acha.
Have you understood?
I do.
So I have a lot of stories. I have a lot of stories because I have served for good over 3.5 years. I have seen them from very close quarters. I have seen them under stress. I have seen them under fire. And I've seen the physical prowess in Siachen in under minus 40 degrees.
Minus 40.
Yes, under Pakistani bombardment, I've seen them. They are very good, excellent. They are unmatchable. You cannot compare them with Indian Army. But then at the same time, yes, they are a different stock only. You have to first of all learn their way of living. You have to adopt their mannerisms, and only then you can command them. And number one. Number two, you have to prove yourself that you are better than them. In case you are not better than them, they will not accept you. You are better than them physically. You are better than them in morally. You are better than them in education.
Okay.
And you have to prove that. You have to prove them on ground. Only then they will accept you. Otherwise, they will sell you to everything. But you can make out that whatever he is doing half-hearted.
Hmm.
So that's what I've seen with them. I was adjourned with them. I've seen them. So that's it. What else?
A brief description of yourself, sir. Like before ending, I would like to know a bit about yours. You,
Okay,
sir.
okay. You see, Dev, I am Colonel Lalotra and I'm a Colonel officer. I'm from RT.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Jammu basically. And I retired in 2017 August
Acha.
after having put in about 32 years and 2 months service.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fourth generation in my family to be in the armed forces. And served in various units.
Mm-hmm.
I was like in various RT units,
Mm-hmm.
staff appointments, then in SFF on deputation.
Okay.
Well, I was on deputation to SFF and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And after having retired, I took to pen, I wrote 2, 3 books, and I write for 2 newspapers of JNK. Plus, I am a senior columnist with one of the magazines, which is known as Himalayan News Chronicle, which is published from Delhi.
Acha.
Okay, and its proprietor is Mr. C.K. Naik, who was ex member of Press Council of India.
Okay.
So, this is what I'm doing for the last about 6, 7 days.
That's really nice, sir, talking to a man from special operations.
Yeah, I hope my this thing small talk, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
useful.
It was, I mean, it will be. After I get this out on YouTube, of course, people are going to listen to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you see, this operation continued from, you can say, June, July till December.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, in a podcast of, you can say, about 45 minutes to 1 hour, you can't cover everything.
Yeah, we can't.
Am I not? So I will try to briefly touch upon major issues like how exactly SFF was formed, like whatever you basically asked me, how exactly it was formed, what was their role, how did they train,
Mm-hmm.
how did they actually go into Chittagong, how did they form, what are the targets, that sort of thing. Got it? And no, the biggest thing, like one of the questions which you had asked me in the questionnaire about 3 days back, which you had asked me was like, what are the present problems which India is facing with regard to SFF?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I, in my own view, feel that gone are the days of secrecy. You tell me one thing, Mr. Dev. Is nowadays anything secret from media?
Nothing, sir. Nothing, I would say. Yeah.
My question is very straight. Can you hide anything from media nowadays? So why are you keeping SFF under wraps? Why under a veil of secrecy?
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, like I was telling you about 3 days back, imagine China has turned the tables against us.
Acha.
We have not been, see, I'm not using a derogatory word. Somehow India has not been able to make use of this such a potent force multiplier which is there with us for the last 62 years. Understood? Whereas China has been doing. China had, that PLA, that is People Liberation Army of China, they have started recruiting Tibetans.
Tibetans.
And they have started pitting Tibetans against Tibetans.
Against SFF, I guess.
Against
Yeah.
SFF or against Tibetans
Hmm.
who are living in India.
Who are living in India.
Yeah, naturally. Number one. Number two, you see, when this Galwan incident happened,
Hmm.
when this Galwan incident happened in May, June 2020, remember Indian government had banned 59 Chinese apps.
Hmm. Right, sir. Right, sir.
Are you aware of that? In one of those apps was WeChat.
WeChat. Huh.
WeChat is what? WeChat is a Chinese app.
Hmm.
And WeChat is the only app which is 99% used by the Tibetans to speak to their parents in Tibet.
Acha, acha.
Now suddenly that app was banned in India.
Hmm.
Did India find a via media for the Tibetans living in India to help them speak to their parents or their near and dear ones in Tibet?
No.
Nothing. I mean,
Nothing.
I'm giving. I can quote you diamond as an examples.
Hmm.
Where we have short-shrifted Tibetans, we have not helped them. We have looked at them with with the eye of disdain. I mean, this is not anyway. This is a long story. So this is what it is. Uh, it's a good subject, and unfortunately, see, in India, in a country like India, or rather, most of the places, the habit of reading has gone.
Yeah.
Don't read.
People don't.
Otherwise we have got some books in which you can find a smattering of knowledge of SFL. Not all books. Some book like one Phantom Force,
Hmm.
the Fifth Army, written by General Van.
Hmm.
It,
It has.
uh,
It has. I mean,
it has.
yeah.
Then I quoted one or two more books like Buddha's Warrior, written by Michael Dunham.
Hmm.
Another very good. Then CIA's Secret War in Asia and Perilous Climb by Kenneth Conway and James Morris.
Hmm.
They're good books. Then a book which has been written by all three of us, that is Colonel Raina, self, and
That one, it has.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are three more books. You can say, I'll not say reference books, but then these books will provide you with a lot of information.
Right.
So one should try to
Get them. Yeah.
get them. And I mean, like, my point is that in case you have these sort of books in a library, actually it increases your horizon of thinking.
Yeah, it does. I do have. I mean,
Sure. Thanks, sir.
thank you.
Thanks,
Sir.
Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks once again. And good. And I shall wait for your podcast then.
Absolutely, sir. मैं आपको
Yes.
लिंक भेज दूंगा.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir,
you.
for coming.
Thanks. Bye.